Welcome viewers. In this lecture, we will be discussing about the designing of organizational structure with authority and control and how it will help in choosing the right structural form. Learning objective here is to explain why a hierarchy of authority emerges in organization and the process of vertical differentiation. We will further discuss about the issues involved in designing hierarchy to coordinate and motivate organizational behavior most effectively and discussing about the ways in which design challenges provide method of control to affect and design organizational hierarchy. There are also principles of bureaucratic structure and explaining their implication in design of effective organizational hierarchies. We will further try to explore why organizations have a flat structure and why they are becoming more flat and making more use of empowered teams and both inside and across different functions. Moving further, we discuss about authority, how and why vertical differentiation occurs. The hierarchy begins to emerge when the organization experiences problems in coordinating and motivating employees. When the organization becomes large, the size becomes more. So, we see that there is a problem of getting things done and there is lack of coordination, and to keep employees motivated to perform remains the major challenge. So, there comes the role of authority. There is a need for division of labor and specialization, making it hard to determine how well an individual performs. Almost impossible to assess individuals' contribution to perform when employees coordinate. To deal with coordination and motivation problems, the organizations can increase the number of managers it uses to monitor, evaluate and reward its employees. If you have more number of managers, you need to monitor their performance, to evaluate what work they have been doing and how to reward them effectively in order to keep them motivated. Increase the number of levels in its managerial hierarchy, thereby making hierarchy of authority taller. So, how and why vertical differentiation occurs is very important, as it is important to identify the size and height limitations, whether the organization will be tall or a flat structure or a flat organization. Tall organizations are one where an organization in which hierarchy has many levels. There are different levels, more number of levels relative to the size of organization. In a flat organization, organization has very few levels in its hierarchy as relative to its height. For example, in a flat structure there are less number of levels, taller structure will have more number of managerial levels. By the time an organization has 1000 members, it has 4 levels in the hierarchy. At 3000 members, it may have 7 levels. Between 10,000 to 1 lakh, organizations have 9 to 10 levels. Increase in size of the managerial components is less than proportional to increase in size of the organization. The problems with tall hierarchies. Of course, the taller hierarchies or taller organizations have certain problems like communication, motivation issues, increased bureaucratic cost. Communication problems takes longer, is likely to be distorted, information may be manipulated to serve managers' own interest. When the organization has many levels, the information which has come to the top level, when it comes down or it is percolated down to the lowest level of hierarchy, the information gets diluted or gets distorted, and it is also delayed. The information, the response does not come immediately, however, the information is delayed. So, these are various problems which a tall structure may face. Sometimes very important information may be delayed. Managers may manipulate information for their own interest. So, these are issues which an organization faces. Motivation problems. As the level increases or hierarchy increases, the relative difference in the authority poses managers at each level decreases, so does the area of responsibility, less responsibility. The motivational problems are, as hierarchy increases, the relative difference in authority possessed managers at each level decreases, as does their area of responsibility. Less responsibility and authority could reduce motivation. Increased bureaucratic cost, managers, there are more levels, cost of maintaining the managers or hiring managers is also very high. Parkinson's law problems argues that number of managers and hierarchies are based on two principles. A manager want to multiply subordinates, not rivals, and managers make work of one another. Ideal number of hierarchy levels determined by principles of minimum chain of command and span of control propose that an organization should choose the minimum number of hierarchical level which is consistent with its goals and environment in which it operates. So, as we have discussed, environment of an organization is very important. So, the environment in which the organization is and the goal should decide the number of hierarchy. Span of control, the number of subordinates a manager directly manages. So, it discusses like a CEO will be directly supervising 5 individuals or the CEO will be directly supervising 2 subordinates, defines a span of control. Then each of those 5 subordinates will be further supervising 2 subordinates or 10 subordinates. It decides the span of control, whether it is a tall span of control or a narrow span of control. What are the factors that determine the appropriate span of control? There seems to be a limit on how wide a manager's span should be, dependent on the complexity and interrelatedness of subordinates task. Complex and dissimilar task, small span of control. Routine and similar task, for example, mass production, because every task is well defined. The processes are also laid off properly. So, it will have large span of control. The manager has 2 subordinates and most of them and must manage these 3 relationships. The increasing complexity of a manager's job as the span increases. In case when there are 3 managers, the manager has 2 subordinates and must manage 3 relationships, like if there are 3 individuals X, Y and Z. So, the manager is able to manage 2 subordinates and is able to establish relationship with 2 subordinates effectively. With the addition of one more individual, one more subordinate, there would be like 3 subordinates he or she is supervising. There are 6 ways in which he will manage relationship. So, this adds on to the complexity. Factors which are affecting the shape of hierarchy. Now, the level of vertical differentiation is affected by several factors. The level of horizontal differentiation, the level of decentralization, standardization and the strength of informal relationship or ties that exist between the managers and subordinates. This defines the shape of the hierarchy. Horizontal differentiation, an organization that is divided into subunits has many different hierarchies, not just one. Each function or division has its own hierarchy. Horizontal differentiation is the principal way an organization retains control over employees without increasing the number of hierarchical levels. So, if an organization has sales, engineering, manufacturing, purchasing, research and development functions, so there can be different levels of hierarchy in each functional department. Like in case of one organization, there can be 7 levels, in some there would be only 1 level, there would be 3 levels and so on. Horizontal differentiation into research and development teams within the R&D, there can be different horizontal differentiations. Centralization, decentralization, less direct managerial supervision is required. Authority is delegated to the lower levels. Decentralization does not eliminate the need for many hierarchical levels in large complex organizations. It assists relatively tall structures to be more flexible and reduces the amount of direct supervision needed. Whereas in standardization, reduces the need for levels of management because the rules, regulations substitute for direct supervision. Standardization gains control over employees by making their behavior and actions more predictable. So, what we have discussed so far, we have discussed about hierarchy of authority which emerges from organizations and processes of vertical differentiation. We discuss about how to design a hierarchy, discuss the way in which design challenges provide methods to control and principles of bureaucratic structure, and explain their implications for design of effective organizational hierarchies. Thank you.